What if this isn't just a shift in the world, but a fork in the soul's path? The Galactic Federation, through the ancient wisdom of the Ashtar command, has quietly stepped forward with a message. The world isn't simply changing, it's being invited to choose, not in headlines or laws, but in quiet moments, in how we feel, act, and connect. They say humanity is at the crossroads now, and there may not be another. This isn't fear, it's remembrance, a chance to choose light, not by words, but by vibration. Something deep is already moving inside you. The hourglass above Earth has flipped. There is a time for waiting, and a time for choosing. The elders once spoke of cycles, not clocks. But somewhere in the cosmos, the sand has shifted. Something final has turned. You can feel it, can't you? That sense that things are accelerating, but not in panic, in pressure. Like the space between breaths has changed. This isn't the kind of countdown you see on screens. It's not about doom, it's about direction. Imagine standing on a bridge, watching two rivers split. That's where we are. Not lost, just in between. And the hourglass above us? It doesn't measure time. It reflects choice. The Galactic Federation watches not with judgment, but with quiet reverence. They don't interfere, but they observe. Because this moment isn't just rare, it's sacred. We are not just living through change, we are the change. And that kind of power comes with weight. You may have noticed how old cycles are ending quickly. Friendships, jobs, beliefs, all crumbling faster than usual. Not because life is breaking, but because your soul is moving to match a higher current. The hourglass doesn't rush, but it doesn't pause either. And maybe that explains why some days feel heavy for no reason, or why you wake up feeling like you forgot something important. It's not a memory, it's your higher self checking the time. Some clocks tick loud. This one just breathes in silence, waiting for your next step. Messages in the sky we forgot to read. There was a time when the sky wasn't just scenery, it was scripture. The stars weren't just points of light. They were living stories, breathing maps, ancient letters for those willing to look up with wonder. But over time, we stopped looking. Not because the sky changed, but because we did. Now and then, something stirs. A strange glow, a flicker that doesn't belong, a pattern you feel more than see. Some call them coincidences, others call them weather. But there's a deeper language woven into these signs, and it speaks in pulses. It speaks in awe. The Federation has always encoded information in frequency and light, not to scare, to remind, to awaken a kind of inner compass, one that's not taught, only remembered. These are not distant beings trying to impress. They are elder watchers, hoping someone, anyone, will remember how to listen. Ever seen a cloud and felt like it was looking back? Or felt goosebumps when the moon rose without any known reason? That's not poetry, that's presence. The sky is not silent. We've just gone deaf to its whispers, and yet, every night, it tries again. In the chaos of modern life, few pause to translate the sky anymore, but those who do often cry, not from fear, from recognition. Like reading a letter written in your own forgotten handwriting. The sky remembers us. It's just waiting for us to return the gesture. Strange how we scroll endlessly for signs, when the sky was always the first screen, when silence becomes the loudest signal. It starts small, a quiet moment in the middle of noise, a breath that lingers longer than the rest, a second where the world feels paused and you don't know why. That is the signal, not from a tower, but from within or above. Hard to tell, really. This silence isn't empty, It's filled with the weight of everything unspoken. The Federation often speaks through what is not said, that ache behind your joy, the stillness between your steps, the pause before a yes or a no. These spaces are sacred because they hold the true broadcast. Many expect messages to arrive like announcements, but the soul listens differently. It hears through tension, through synchronicity, through the moments you stop scrolling, stop planning, and just feel. That's when the real signal comes, and it doesn't use words. You may have noticed this: the sudden urge to cry for no reason, the discomfort when surrounded by artificial sound, the craving for nature's hush. That's not mood, that's message. The quieter the outer world becomes, the louder your soul can speak. Silence is not passive, it's a gateway, a threshold. The Federation knows most won't cross it, not because they can't, but because they fear what they might find. And yet, within it lies the map, not just for guidance, but for alignment. Funny, isn't it? We chase answers everywhere, except in the space they've always waited. The two timelines, pulling your soul apart. You've likely felt it, like you're being stretched, split in two. One part of you still attached to old ways, the safety, the patterns, the familiar numbness, and the other, restless, hungry, yearning for something you can't quite name. That's not confusion, that's a crossroads. The Federation describes it as the friction point between two living timelines. One timeline is rooted in fear, control, repetition. The other, in openness, frequency, remembering. Neither timeline is forced. Both exist in parallel. And right now, every choice, every emotion, feeds one or the other. You might feel this as mood swings, sudden clarity, followed by strange fatigue, wanting to speak truth, but biting your tongue, feeling called to change, but paralyzed by guilt or doubt. That's not weakness, that's timeline tension, and your soul is feeling the pull from both sides. The old timeline rewards distraction, it flatters the ego, it numbs pain with routine. The new timeline? It's raw, it's slower, it asks for presence, it can feel unfamiliar, even lonely at first. But underneath, there's peace, breath, light. The choice isn't made once, it's made in moments, in how you speak, in how you treat yourself, in how much of your heart you bring to a silent morning. The timelines are not chosen through events, they're chosen through energy. And maybe that's why your life feels like a tug of war lately, because it is. The hidden choice beneath every emotion. Most people think emotions just happen, a reaction, a side effect. But what if each emotion is a door, a signal not of who you are, but of what you're choosing in that instant? Beneath every wave of feeling lies a quiet fork, a subtle invitation to stay or shift. The Ashtar wisdom often reminds us, fear isn't just fear. It's an opportunity to choose contraction or expansion. Anger isn't just anger. It can be the threshold of courage or collapse. Every emotion hides a spiritual crossroad, and most people walk past it without knowing. Think about the last time you were frustrated, not just at someone, but at yourself or life. Did you follow the feeling into reaction? Or did you pause, even for a breath, and wonder what your soul was trying to say? That single breath, that was the choice point. Even joy contains choice. Some joy leads to gratitude. Other joy becomes addiction. Same surface, different vibration. The Federation isn't watching what you feel. It's watching how you navigate it. Because each feeling carves a direction through your field. It's okay to feel everything. You're supposed to. Emotions are holy, but they're also maps. And every map has crossroads. We just forget to read them because we're too busy reacting to the weather of our hearts. Strange, isn't it? How every storm hides a compass. We've spoken of the timelines, the tug, and the silence that holds it all together. But what happens when the silence breaks? What happens when the signals begin to flood your dreams, your thoughts, even your skin? Ahead in this journey, we'll explore what Ashtar means by frequency citizenship, why some truths arrive only through children, and how light, real light, begins to rewrite the darkest parts of you. Ashtar's call: awaken or be absorbed. It's not a threat. It's a truth told gently. Ashtar's call to humanity is not a command. It's a plea, a vibration that touches the soul rather than the ears. And at the center of it is this: wake up, or be pulled into something that isn't truly yours, something that sounds like you, but isn't. You might already feel it, the subtle erosion of self, one compromise at a time, one fake smile, one surrendered intuition, until you're following a life that looks familiar, but feels like it belongs to someone else. This is how absorption works, not through violence, through slow forgetting. Ashtar's message isn't about alarm bells. It's about alignment. Awakening doesn't mean becoming loud or mystical. It means becoming real. Saying no when your gut clenches. Walking away when your energy tightens. Choosing discomfort that aligns with soul over comfort that erases it. This moment in time is like spiritual gravity. If you don't rise, you're pulled. And what pulls isn't evil. It's hungry. It feeds on unconsciousness, on half-truths, on numbed hearts. That's why awakening feels hard, because it's the choice to remember while the world forgets. You might lose people. You might shed identities. That's part of the cost. But Ashtar says, those who awaken now, fully, honestly, become lighthouses, anchors, not for fame, but for frequency. And frequency is the new frontier of leadership. The real danger was never being asleep. The danger is mistaking sleep for safety. The disguise of progress that weakens the heart. Progress. It's a word we celebrate. But have you noticed how some advancements feel more hollow than helpful? How each new solution often creates another layer of noise. This isn't nostalgia. This is your heart quietly realizing. Not all forward movement is evolution. The Federation speaks of Earth's current systems like tangled roots. Beautiful ideas, twisted by speed, by profit, by disconnection. We build faster machines, but slower minds. Smarter phones, but lonelier hearts. It looks like growth, but the heart? It feels the collapse underneath. Technology isn't the enemy, but numbness is. And when progress removes the need for presence, something sacred begins to dissolve. How often do we scroll past sunsets, swipe through pain, mute the voice inside, just to keep up? This isn't efficiency, it's erosion. The Ashtar command doesn't warn against tools, they warn against identity loss. When your value is measured in output, in updates, in likes, your soul begins to whisper, this isn't home. But that whisper gets drowned in the algorithm. You don't have to reject the modern world, but you do have to reclaim the parts of you it tries to edit out. The slowness, the awkwardness, the depth. That's the soil where soulfulness still grows. And that soil is drying up. Not all progress is sacred. Some is just faster forgetting. Why so many feel lost, right before remembering. There's a strange phase in the awakening path where nothing makes sense. You feel disconnected from old habits, but not yet connected to anything new. It's not a mistake. It's the void before remembering. The space the Federation calls the sacred in-between. In this space, you may feel like you're floating, untethered, like nothing satisfies you anymore. Not the food, not the conversations, not even the things that once brought you joy. It can feel like depression, but beneath that surface, something is quietly rearranging your reality. It's the soul's deep clean, the moment where your internal compass resets. But before it points you north, it spins, and that spinning can feel terrifying, because we've been taught to define ourselves by roles, labels, rhythms, and this phase, it strips all of that bare. The Ashtar wisdom says, when you feel most lost, you're closest to yourself, because the noise is gone, and all that's left is the raw pulse of your being. That's the remembering, not of information, but of identity, not of facts, but of feeling. You don't need to understand this phase, you just need to allow it, to not rush through the fog, but to walk slowly inside it, because the fog is not emptiness. It's the place where your new frequency is forming. Feeling lost isn't failure. It's the echo of your soul mapping the way home. The great pause before the cosmic verdict. Every shift has a still point, a breath held, a space where time itself seems to stall. And that's where we are. This is the pause. The one the ancients whispered about, the one the Federation watches in solemn quiet. You might have felt it already, this tension in the air, like something's waiting. But it's not dread, it's assessment, not by judges, but by energy. Because at this moment, Earth isn't being judged by actions alone, but by resonance. And that resonance comes from the collective human heart. This pause isn't punishment, it's opportunity. It's where free will is at its most powerful. Every meditation, every choice of kindness over fear, every breath taken in presence, shifts the field, not metaphorically, literally. And that field is what determines the next phase. The Federation doesn't interfere, but they listen to our music, to our grief, to our prayers, even when unspoken. They are sensing, is humanity choosing unity or illusion? And in the quiet, that answer is beginning to form. You may notice things feel still, yet heavy. That's the pause, the collective inhale, waiting for the exhale that defines what comes next. It's not about perfection. It's about frequency, about honesty, about love that doesn't need permission. This pause is where the timelines start tilting. Frequency is the new citizenship. Forget passports, forget borders. In the new Earth, the Earth that is forming through this very crossroads, the only ID that matters is your vibration, your frequency. And it's readable, not by machines, but by reality itself. This may sound strange, but frequency is like scent to the cosmos. It reveals your truth, your pain, your clarity. The Ashtar command explains that as we enter a higher density reality, frequency will determine access, not as punishment, but as natural alignment. You don't earn your way into higher states. You match them. You harmonize with them. And this isn't about being good. It's about being real. A clear, authentic, grounded person in grief will rise faster than a smiling mask wrapped in spiritual ego. You've likely felt it already. Certain people drain you, others lift you. Some places feel dense, others feel electric. That's frequency communication, and it's only intensifying. The more awake you become, the more obvious the divide becomes. This is why healing matters, not just for comfort, but because wounds distort frequency, and distortion blocks reception. You can't fake it anymore. In this new field, everything shows. Your inner world is your visa. And here's the strange grace in it all. You don't need permission to belong. You just need to resonate. Now that we've begun to feel the pulse of this new reality, the breath before change, the code beneath emotion, something even more mysterious begins to surface. What if mirrors start breaking? What if children begin remembering more than their own lives? And what if your dreams are no longer yours alone, but messages passed between worlds? The next part of this journey may not only explain what's happening, it may awaken what you thought was gone forever. When the veil lifts and the mirrors break, the veil they speak of isn't fabric. It's not clouds or illusions in the sky. It's the soft layer of forgetfulness that wraps the human mind, allowing souls to play inside limitation, to explore pain, love, fear, joy, without remembering why. But lately, that veil is thinning, and for some, it's tearing. You may notice it in the way reality feels. Unstable. You look in the mirror and feel like a stranger. You dream of places that feel more like home than home itself. Or you begin hearing words in silence, feeling things before they happen. This is not madness. This is thinning. Ashtar once said, "When the veil lifts, the mirrors must crack." Because mirrors, in the symbolic sense, reflect the version of yourself the world told you was real. But once the veil drops, that reflection begins to distort. You no longer fit the identity you've worn like a coat for years. And this can be unsettling. You may not recognize your desires. Your friends may no longer understand you. Even food, music, and clothes feel off. Not wrong, just no longer yours. That's not regression. That's re-emergence. The soul, freshly unwrapped, blinking in the light. You won't become someone new. You'll become someone true. And the world will mirror that. People will show up that match your frequency, not your past. Things will fall away, not because they're bad, but because they were borrowed. A cracked mirror doesn't mean you're broken. It means the illusion finally stopped working. The children who arrived already, knowing. There are some who did not come here to forget. The children you see today, many of them are not blank slates. They are keepers, carriers of memory. They speak of stars. They draw portals. They cry at suffering that others can't even see. They don't need to awaken. They already are. You may have one in your home, or maybe you were one, but were taught to forget. These children aren't fragile, but they are sensitive, not because they're weak, but because their systems are tuned to frequencies that haven't landed yet. They're sensing the future while surviving the past. Some will be labeled, misunderstood, called too emotional, too distracted, too different. But the truth is, they came here to hold the field steady during the shift, to remind older souls not to harden, to embody what presence looks like when it isn't filtered through fear. And their presence is a mirror. They don't care for pretense. They'll ask questions that pierce through social roles. They'll call out lies without flinching. They don't learn truth. They remember it. And in their presence, you might start to remember too. Ashtar calls them the unmasked, because they incarnated without the protective forgetting most of us needed. That makes them vulnerable, but it also makes them anchors. And when the world gets loud, their quiet knowing becomes a lighthouse. Sometimes the greatest wisdom comes in a whisper from a child who has barely learned to speak. Your dreams are not yours alone. Lately, dreams feel heavier, thicker, not like personal stories anymore, more like transmissions. Ashtar teaches that the dream realm is no longer a private space. It has become shared ground, a communication channel, a meeting place between dimensions. And not all who enter are from here. Have you ever woken up with information you didn't study? Felt like you were traveling rather than resting? Or encountered symbols, beings, or even landscapes that felt more real than waking life. That's not imagination. That's interdimensional memory being exchanged in your sleep. In this stage of the awakening, the dream world is becoming more active. Some of your dreams aren't about you at all. They're collective. You're visiting timelines, witnessing events, or helping stabilize certain energetic fields. You might not remember it clearly, but your soul does the work anyway. The Federation watches the dream field closely, not to control, but to protect. Because as more humans awaken, more beings become curious. Not all are malevolent. Some are just watching. Some are helping. Some are confused. But your frequency determines who finds you in the dream. You may feel more tired in the morning, not because you didn't sleep, but because you worked, you healed, you received. And that's why dream journaling is becoming sacred again. Not for answers, but for echoes, for patterns, for clues left by your higher self. The light codes are hidden in your breaking points. It sounds strange, doesn't it? That the pain you're running from might carry the key you've been looking for. But Ashtar's teachings say this clearly. What breaks you also reveals you. Because in the crack, the light gets in, and the codes awaken. Think about the last time you broke down, not just cried, but came undone, where something collapsed inside you and you didn't know what to hold on to. That wasn't failure, that was transformation. And inside that moment, a new frequency was born. Light codes are not glitter. They're not sparkles in the sky. They are activations embedded inside deep emotion. You feel them when grief burns clean, when truth is spoken after years of silence, when the body shakes not from fear, but from release. Why would such sacred frequencies hide in pain? Because pain is honest. It strips you bare. It ends performance. And in that rawness, your soul becomes porous again. And into that openness, the code flows, not as data, as remembrance. You don't need to chase light. You just need to stop fearing the moments that crack you open. Because those moments weren't meant to end you. They were meant to rewrite you, not with stories, but with sound, with vibration, with light only visible in surrender. Why the Federation watches in quiet sorrow? They don't judge us. That's a human thing. The Federation doesn't look at Earth with superiority. They look with empathy. But there is sorrow, a deep, noble sadness in their gaze. Because they remember who we were, and they see who we're pretending to be. This sorrow isn't disappointment. It's grief for potential delayed. They watch us hurt each other, chase false gods, reject silence, numb the spirit, and they ache. Not because they need us to be perfect, but because they know we are capable of so much more. Ashtar once described it like this. We see the symphony inside you, but you've forgotten the instruments. That kind of knowing hurts, like watching a master painter trying to colour inside a box, or a healer forgetting their hands no more than any book. But their sorrow is also faith. They don't give up. They continue sending light, not because we earn it, but because they love us. And love doesn't abandon. Love stays, even when the beloved has forgotten how to receive. You may have felt this in dreams, a quiet presence watching you, not intruding, or sudden warmth in a moment of despair. That's them, not fixing, just witnessing. And that witnessing has power. Sometimes knowing you're seen is the thing that pulls you back. One truth can end generations of sleep. Sometimes all it takes is one moment, one truth, not complex, not dramatic, just pure, clear, undeniable. The kind that hits not just your mind, but your whole body. You don't debate it. You don't need to prove it. You just know. And after that knowing, everything changes. The Federation has waited for humanity to have more of these moments. Truths that pierce through programming like a blade through fog. And these aren't truths found in books. They're found in breath, in heartbreak, in nature, in the still voice that rises up when everything else falls quiet. Have you had one of those moments? A flash that made you step outside yourself and feel like your old life no longer fit? That wasn't a crisis. That was contact. Contact with your soul. And once truth arrives like that, it doesn't knock. It breaks the door. But here's the key. Truth doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it empties you, strips you, forces you to rebuild. That's why so many avoid it. They confuse comfort with peace. But peace doesn't always come with cushions. Sometimes it arrives barefoot, bleeding, but finally free. The Ashtar wisdom says, one awakened human, fully anchored in truth, can affect the resonance of entire cities. You don't need to convert anyone. You just need to be. And your vibration does the rest. Because truth is contagious when it's embodied. And when even one soul wakes up fully, the dream begins to unravel for everyone else.